Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly edition of The Wrap. I'm Laura Leslie, WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief.
And I'm Paul Spey, PolitiFact reporter and WRAL state government reporter.
And it's been a big week, of course, here at WRAL. We had our poll out. We do this a couple times a year. Survey USA does it for us. Interesting results we'll get to in a minute, but I wanted to take a moment to return to the really great Sunday special that you did this week about immigration and the costs. And that's been one of our top stories all week. I think people really want to know about that.
Oh, thank you for saying that. And I think immigration comes back into the light based on some of the things we heard in the presidential debate. You know, President Trump put out that baseless claim that people are eating dogs in Ohio or whatever. Again,
you didn't look into that, did you?
PolitiFact did. And so we found that the officials there, the town officials, are saying there's no evidence of this. And, you know, I think I saw a tweet today and this is Friday, where they said we need help, not hate. They do have a Haitian population there, but a lot of people are spreading unfounded rumors.
And actually, it's been interesting to me on that note that a lot of the people who've been saying this on national television are Republican leaders from Ohio, a Republican county commissioner, a Republican governor, you know, talking about, yes, we do have challenges. Yes, we are overstretched. This is not one of the challenges.
Right. Yeah. And so with that in mind, even before this rumor started circulating, we had seen a lot of campaign ads here in North Carolina about immigrants coming over the border, slipping past border security. Earlier this year, you and I both covered a press conference down at the legislature where a bunch of House Republicans gathered and said, North Carolina is a border state and Governor Cooper needs to send the National Guard to Texas. That same letter was the inspiration for this Sunday special story that we did. It talked about immigrants straining schools, causing an increase in crime, and straining the social safety net. So we thought, why don't we look into those things? I just genuinely curious from a human standpoint and as a newsreader whether or not there were any numbers to support these claims that were being made. And what we found was that there really aren't. When it comes to crime lags a year or two, at least the data does. But the most recent available data from the FBI and SBI in 2022 does not show a surge in crime at all. And experts say it would be hard for immigrants to be driving a surge when there's not one. We even found a couple cases that Republicans have talked about. There's a man named Awet Hagos. He was in a standoff with Gates County deputies. He entered the country in 2016 and then stayed
on a visa.
On a visa, that's right, and stayed beyond his deadline to leave. And so we've seen people try to tie him to the Biden administration. He didn't come across the border. He came in through other means. And then there are those brothers, I'll probably mispronounce their names, but the Sotelo brothers shot and killed a Wake County deputy here in North Carolina in 2022. I believe they're still waiting for that trial. Come to find out, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, does not know when they came in. So it could be the last 4 years. It could have been under Trump. They don't know. And so we just looked into a lot of this and looked into whether or not they're overburdening schools. Well, guess what? Public school systems in North Carolina don't track their students' immigration status.
You know, I think that was the takeaway. The biggest takeaway I got from your story was that there's not a lot of data, you know, and I mean, maybe the answer is more tracking of data and across various ways of doing, you know, in various areas. But yeah, there's just not a lot of data to back this stuff up. And, you know, I just think I hear what you're, you know, the Sotelo brothers for sure, you know, right here in Wake County, you know, but the plural of anecdote is not data,
right?
As they say.
Exactly. And that's what we wanted to look past sort of the narratives and the rhetoric to see what was provable. And so we, you know, without citizenship data for students in North Carolina, we just looked at the number of English learners in our public schools, and that's only gone up. That number's only gone up marginally, like 2% in the last 4 years. And I'll hit the rest here quickly. You know, they talked about straining North Carolina's social services. Well, the number of unemployment claims filed by non-citizens, who are eligible in some cases, by the way, is 2%. That's much lower than it was. Even in the 2010s, it was as high. Obviously it went up really high during the pandemic, but in the 2010s, it was closer to 4 and 5%. So we're below that now. And then Medicaid has been expanded in North Carolina. More people are eligible, but the number of non-citizens on Medicaid has only gone up marginally. So we didn't see any evidence of strain, at least not in the numbers. We can only go with the data that we have, and the data that we have doesn't support the narrative that's out there.
Right. In the meantime, lots of drama this week. First of all, of course, on Jones Street. A deal was reached late last week and announced formally on Monday that legislators had agreed on a combination of the entire voucher bill, nearly $500 million that they had talked about earlier this year. They've coupled it with the ICE detainer bill, the bill that would require sheriffs to cooperate with ICE detainer requests for 48 hours. That all made it through the legislature. Sounds like mostly on a party line vote. It's on its way to the governor. I think we can guess what the fate of that bill is going to be.
Oh, I would bet if you could bet on this, like you can on sports, I would bet that he's going to veto it.
You already can in some places, just not here. And then also they did some veto overrides, and so we expect another veto of this bill. We expect they'll probably come back. They're talking about November after the election. Probably do a veto override at that point on House Bill 10. Those voucher expansions, by the way, would be retroactive. So, the families who were put on hold or who were hoping it would be in effect for this year would be able to be reimbursed. Mm-hmm. So, but of course, again, that is a huge expansion of the spending. I mean, I think if you think about it, our current spending on vouchers for this year was about $300 million. This adds $248. So it nearly doubles the spending.
$500 million toward private schools.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Also, big drama this week, the RFK. First, he went to court to get onto the ballot, and then he went to court to get off the ballot. It went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court hit the brakes and said he gets to get off of it. So that means that all of these ballots that were about to be sent out can't be, and they have to be reprinted.
Right, and I think there's so much to talk about. We could spend so much time talking about this particular issue, but we have the longest voting period in the country here in North Carolina. Our absentee ballots are scheduled to go out September 6th. Obviously, that date has passed, and it's because Kennedy won this case before the state Supreme Court. Now, the ballots have not gone out. They have not gone out by September 6th is what I'm trying to say. And so people are sitting around waiting, and there's a federal deadline to get them out to members of the military as well. And if I remember correctly, there's a spokesman for the Elections Board who says, I don't even know if we'll make that. This has been a very big and costly change at the last minute for North Carolina's election, like logistics, you could say.
Right, and Wake County, Jerry Cohen, longtime legislative bill drafting person, expert on legislature. He's now a member of the board, Wake County Board of Elections, and he tweeted that it's going to cost Wake County alone about $300,000.
Right, and these aren't huge operations. They're not like other agencies in the state, like the DEQ. You're not looking
at a giant budget here.
No, these are staffs of sometimes a dozen people, I'm guessing. And
much smaller in most counties, yeah.
Right. And so they don't have many resources to work with, and now they have to go back to the drawing board and start all over again.
Also this week, we should mention, obviously, the debate. Tuesday night, everybody was talking about. Notable that Roy Cooper was in the spin room for Kamala Harris. Again, you just, what do you think, Attorney General? Right?
He could, it wouldn't surprise me.
No, I just wonder because he's been extremely prominent for her in a way that I have not seen a North Carolina politician, especially a Democrat, be on behalf of a presidential candidate.
Trump talks a lot, former President Trump talks a lot about loyalty. And so a lot of politicians, they hire and put people around them that they trust. Well, it is very, very obvious that the vice president knows and likes and trusts Roy Cooper, whether it's to introduce her at the DNC or to go in the spin room or, she was considering him for vice president. He took his name out. But it's clear they have this relationship.
There's a rapport,
where
for sure.
If she gets in office, it wouldn't shock me one bit to see him appointed to something.
Yeah. All right, well, this brings us to an ideal opportunity to have a break from the people who are paying our bills. Please hang out there for a second, and we'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. And welcome back to this week's edition of On the Wrap, I should say. I'm Laura Leslie here with Andy Spay, and we are looking at what's going on, our new poll numbers, which were fascinating.
That's right. We spent all week sort of giving
out.
giving people a taste of the poll, one little poll question at a time, and putting those results on air and online. And they've been interesting. We covered a lot, everything from the presidential race to what people think of marijuana legalization, to how their opinions have changed on abortion. And then what you're doing today is what? Sports gambling, I think.
Sports gambling and medical marijuana. So, and it turns out, spoiler alert, medical marijuana, still popular. But still not legal in North Carolina.
Right.
Bill Rabin has already said he will try again next year, and you never know.
And he's been trying for medical marijuana, right? Not even full. We should be clear. Our poll asked people if they supported full legalization, and I believe it was
medical marijuana.
Oh, it did they?
Yeah,
okay.
It was medical, and this is sheerly medical. And his bill is extremely limited. It would be one of the most restrictive medical marijuana bills in the country. And even so, it can't get past the social conservatives, even though in our polling, even those who describe themselves as very conservative politically supported it by a majority. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even a plurality. It was a majority.
It seems like at this point that obviously, cancer is very prevalent. We know each one of us seems to know someone who's had cancer. Well, just in my lifetime, in the last 10, 20 years reporting, between us, it seems like more and more people know someone who has used cannabis, marijuana for treatment for cancers and other sort of severe illnesses. And so it just makes me wonder if that's why those numbers have shot up so much.
I think so. I think also maybe more people are willing to talk about it. You know what I mean? Maybe in the past people didn't mention that had helped them. Excuse me, that's kind of what happened with Senator Rabin, mm-hmm. right? He went through all this with cancer, never really talked much about it. And it was just like it was 2023, I think, when he first told his whole story mm-hmm. about it, right? There's still a lot of stigma about it. But I think as more people talk about it, more people say, really?
Right.
Why is that a problem? So anyway, but we should go back to our poll numbers. It shows Josh Stein in the governor's race opening up what looks like a 14-point lead, which to me looked a little odd. It looked like awfully big, right? But then we saw some numbers come out from another poll this week that I think it was High Point.
High Point was a couple weeks ago, but they also had Stein with a 14-point
Yeah, and
lead.
there was another one that came out this week that had a 14-point lead as well. So I feel a little bit more more confident in those numbers. But, it is pretty dramatic. I think the last one showed Stein with a lead that was just at the edge of the credibility interval. Mm-hmm. And this one is, of course, well up.
And we spoke to experts about that race and asked, does this surprise you? Why do you think he's up by so much? And they said that one reason is because you have a combination of two things. One, Robinson has said a lot of controversial things, and two, Stein has the money to put
them on the air.
To put them on the air. That's right. And so he gets to define who Mark Robinson is to the viewing public.
But the other thing that's important about that is that these things that Mark Robinson said that were controversial were on video.
That's right. There's one ad that the Stein campaign has up where you see Robinson speaking to the camera. It looks like he, was speaking to someone on Zoom or on FaceTime or something.
Or shooting a selfie video or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're right. And then there are other video clips they've gotten from churches and I believe a radio show he was on as well.
Yeah.
So this is all out there. There's a lot of material. And Josh Stein, like his predecessor, Attorney General Cooper, before he was governor, they're both extremely good fundraisers. Even Republicans in this political game will say that. And so he's been putting that money to use.
Yeah, and this may be a situation where he's helping Kamala, mm-hmm. according to some of the folks that I talked to, or vice versa. So, certainly it's good news for him that she's doing as well as she is in the state. She's currently leading, although statistically it's a tie. And then, he's obviously leading by more than a statistical tie. So we also surveyed a couple of other races going down. I wish we had done the Supreme Court race. We had not. Darn it. However, we did look at the AG race, and that one also, the Democrats leading that one, not by a huge margin, though.
Right. And this is a race between two Charlotte-based congressmen, one the Republican Dan Bishop and the Democrat Jeff Jackson. And they're very, very different people, even in style. But the poll showed Jackson up about 6 or 7%. That's outside the margin of error, or we call it a credibility interval, which was somewhere between 4.2 and 4.9. I can't remember off the top of my head.
That was a 4.9, I think.
4.9, yeah. Okay. And it looked like, and that was a change from March when we polled the same race, and it looked like Bishop was ahead with more of the demographics that we track, right? But since then, Jackson has been able to boost his numbers among Black North Carolinians, people in urban cities, and then with young people, he was, I think it was pretty close back in March, but now Jackson is ahead with people between the ages of 18 and 49. So. Whatever he's doing.
How is he doing it? Because I haven't. Is he on TV?
Well, I haven't seen any ads from him.
Right.
I know one of our pundits out west had not seen any ads, but Jackson is very good on social media.
Yes, he is extremely prolific on social media.
Yeah, I say good in reference to just how he uses it, not what he says. But that's one theory someone threw out. And Dan Bishop's more of the classical Republican who goes on Fox News a lot and gets his message out that way. And they were both legislators as well down here in Raleigh. So
same time.
They know each other. It'll be interesting to see how they whether they can get their names out there in a state with so many things on the ballot.
I know that the Institute for Political Leadership is going to be doing a series of debates, and I think there is an AG one slated. So I really hope I can attend that one because I think that would be a really good debate.
I do too. Just high quality. I know they're both attorneys
and sharp attorneys,
right?
At that. So, other things to mention: concerns. The issues are pretty much what they were. What the voters care about. The issues. We should mention that. Mo Green and Michelle Morrow in the superintendent's race. Mo Green about 2 points ahead. That is about it. We asked voters whether they cared about some of the more controversial comments that Michelle Morrow had made and also Mark Robinson had made about education. And the punchline was that voters really didn't. I mean, for most voters, it really did. For about half of them, they said it didn't change how they were going to vote. So those people, I think that's just baked in.
Mm-hmm.
We also asked that question about the Biden administration's position on Gaza and the Trump administration and January 6th. And again, the half of voters said it really didn't make any difference either way. In the case of January 6th, I think there was slightly more voters said it made them more likely. No, it wasn't January 6th. Sorry, it was the lawsuits. It was the lawsuit, the felony lawsuits, and the felony conviction from Trump. Yeah, sorry, not January 6th. And I think that slightly more said it made them more likely to vote for Trump. In that
because
one.
They see him as a victim, according to those poll results.
Exactly. So, interesting stuff. But, you can find all of that, of course, online at WRAL.com. We've got your crosstabs up there for those of you who like to dig into that stuff. I know I sure do. So. Harris here in the state just last night.
She had 2 cities while she was here.
Yeah, Greensboro and Charlotte yesterday, along with Roy Cooper at both of them, of course. J.D. Vance coming next week to Raleigh, fulfilling that postponed visit that happened back in August when we had Hurricane Debbie show up, and both he and Kamala Harris, I think, canceled their events.
I think it was both of them. That's right.
Yeah. I think that's about it for me. What are you watching next week?
I'll be watching to see just how much these races change candidate behavior. We've seen a lot of polling now on Mark Robinson being way behind. He, I don't believe, spoke at the last Trump rally. Democrats have said they want to try to tie the two together, Trump and Robinson, to try to bring Trump down, not just Robinson. I'm still waiting to see where that might happen. And when I say Democrats, I'm talking about advisors for Harris's campaign have gone on podcasts and things like that and talked about how Robinson, in their eyes, is so toxic that he could also hurt Trump's reputation I don't know how true that is.
I about to say that could be a lot of bluster too, but
I do wonder what we will see out of Robinson to try to salvage or just make up ground in this race.
I'll be interested to see how much money the RGA pumps in. That's what I'm really watching here. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for listening as always, and we will catch up with you here next week here on The Wrap.